right? So we'll study about deadlock prevention, right? So there are two principal methods for dealing with the deadlock problem. We can use a deadlock prevention protocol to ensure that the system will never enter into a deadlock state, right? So alternatively, we can allow the system to enter into a deadlock state and try to recover by using deadlock detection and recovery scheme, right? So one is that you prevent the system such that it never enters into a deadlock state. So that's going to be complex. Whereas the other way is that you detect whenever there is a deadlock using deadlock detection algorithm and use some deadlock recovery scheme to recover from the deadlock, right? So the simplest approach is going to be the first approach, which requires that each transaction logs all the data items before it begins execution, right? So moreover, either all the data items are locked in one step or none are locked, right? So when a transaction starts its execution, it locks all the data items at the beginning itself that is needed for its completion. You will be able to prevent the deadlock. However, there are two main disadvantages to this protocol. So it is very hard to predict before the transaction begins what data items needs to be locked. And again, data item utilization may be very low since many of the data items may be locked but unused for a long time, right? So the first approach is that deadlock prevention is that you need to ensure that the transactions never enter into a deadlock state. So what you do is that whenever a transaction begins an execution, it locks all the data items before it starts its execution. However, the disadvantage in this approach is that it's very difficult to predict at the beginning itself what are the data items that will be needed during the execution of your transaction. Again, if you are going to lock all the data items at the beginning of the execution, then the data item utilization rate may be very low, since many of the data items may be locked but left unused for a very long time. So that's the disadvantage of this first approach.